I never thought I'd be one of those guys posting their life drama on Reddit, but here I am. 3 weeks ago, my life was completely normal. I had a successful construction business I'd built from the ground up over the past decade, a beautiful wife of 8 years named Rachel, and what I thought was a solid friendship with my business partner, Mark. Mark and I met in college, both studying civil engineering. We'd always talked about starting our own company someday, and 6 years ago, we finally did it. Constructwell was our baby, and we poured everything into making it work. The first few years were rough, but we started landing bigger contracts, hiring more people, and finally saw real success. Rachel was there from the beginning, supporting us both. She'd bring us dinner during late nights at the office, helped organize our first company Christmas party, and was the one who pushed us to take risks when we were too cautious. Mark always joked that she was our secret weapon. I guess I never realized just how close they'd become. The signs were there, looking back. The way they'd laugh at inside jokes during company events. How Rachel would sometimes mention Mark's opinions on topics they shouldn't have been discussing. The increasing number of times I'd come home to find Mark's truck in our driveway for some urgent business matter that somehow required my wife's input. I was working more than ever, taking on a major hospital renovation project that required constant attention. I'd leave before dawn and come home after dark, often to find Rachel already asleep. On weekends, I'd catch up on paperwork while she went shopping or to yoga classes that seemed to run longer each time. Last Tuesday, I finished early at the site. The electrical subcontractor canceled our meeting, so I decided to surprise Rachel by coming home and taking her out to dinner. Our anniversary was coming up, and I felt guilty for being so absent lately. When I pulled into our driveway around 3 p.m., I immediately recognized Mark's truck. My first thought was business-related. Maybe he needed some documents I kept at home. I didn't text or call. I just went inside. The house was quiet when I entered. No voices from the kitchen or living room. I called out, "Rachel? Mark?" No answer. I headed upstairs, and that's when I heard it. Laughter, muffled music, and unmistakable sounds coming from our bedroom. Our fucking bedroom. I stood frozen outside the door, my mind racing with options. Kick it down? Walk away? Record them for evidence? In that moment, I felt like I was watching myself from above, some out-of-body experience while my entire life imploded. I chose the most anticlimactic option. I knocked. 3 sharp knocks that immediately silenced everything behind the door. Then I said, in the calmest voice I've ever managed, "I'm going to wait downstairs. You have 5 minutes." Those 5 minutes were the longest of my life. I sat at our kitchen island, staring at the wedding photo magnet to our refrigerator, wondering how we'd gone from that day to this. They came downstairs separately. Mark first, shirt misbuttoned and face flushed red. He couldn't look me in the eye as he mumbled something about talking somewhere private. Rachel followed a minute later, hair hastily pulled back, wearing different clothes than what I'd seen in the hamper that morning. "Sit down," I said. My voice didn't even sound like my own. "Both of you." They sat across from me at our dining table, the one we'd picked out together when we bought this house. Rachel was crying silently, tears streaming down her face, but I felt nothing. Mark stared at his hands, which were trembling slightly. "How long?" I asked. The silence stretched for what felt like forever before Rachel whispered, 8 months. 8 months. While I was securing the biggest contract of our company's history. While we were celebrating last Christmas as a family. While I was planning our anniversary trip to Maui. "It just happened," Mark started. "We never met." "Don't." I cut him off. "Nothing just happens for 8 months. Rachel reached across the table for my hand. I pulled away like her touch would burn me. "James, please. We need to talk about this. It's complicated." "Complicated," I repeated. "Is that what you told yourselves when you were fucking in our bed? That it was complicated?" Mark stood up, suddenly defensive. "Look, this isn't how we wanted you to find out. We've been trying to figure out how to tell you." I laughed, and it sounded hollow even to my own ears. "How considerate of you both. Planning the best way to tell me you've been betraying me while still keeping the business intact? Or were you planning to push me out of that too?" Rachel's eyes widened. "No, it's nothing like that. The business is yours as much as Mark's. We would never." "We would never," I mimicked. Funny how that phrase doesn't carry much weight right now. I got up and paced the kitchen, trying to process the avalanche of emotions threatening to bury me. Rage, heartbreak, humiliation, all fighting for dominance. "I want details," I said finally. "Not the physical stuff. I want to know how this happened. I deserve that much." They exchanged glances, having one of those silent conversations that only people who share secrets can have. That alone felt like another betrayal. Mark spoke first. "It started when you were in Denver for that conference. Rachel was worried about you. You've been distant, working all hours. She called me upset one night, and I came over. We just talked at first." Rachel continued, her voice small. "You were gone so much, James. The business became everything to you. I felt invisible. So instead of talking to me, you turned to my best friend? My business partner. I tried talking to you. Her voice rose. For months, I tried. But you were always too busy, too tired, too focused on the next big project. The worst part was, she wasn't entirely wrong. I had been absent, physically and emotionally. But that didn't justify what they'd done. When did it become physical? I asked, even though each answer was like a knife twist. New Year's Eve, Mark admitted. You left the party early to handle that emergency at the West Side site. I remembered that night. A pipe had burst at our biggest project, threatening to delay everything by weeks. I'd spent hours in the freezing cold directing emergency repairs while everyone else celebrated. Meanwhile, my wife and best friend were starting their affair. And today? What was this? A regular Tuesday afternoon appointment. Rachel flinched. James, please. Answer me. Is this a regular thing? Do you have a schedule? Do you use our bed every time? Or do you mix it up? Mark stood up again. This isn't productive. You're angry, and you have every right to be, but don't you dare tell me how to react. I snarled. You've lost that privilege. That night, I checked into a hotel. I couldn't bear to sleep in that house, in that bed. I switched off my phone after sending a text to our project manager saying I'd be unavailable for a few days, personal emergency. Then I just sat there, staring at the wall, replaying the last 8 months in my mind, looking for clues I'd missed. The next morning, I called our company lawyer. He sounded concerned when I asked about dissolving a partnership, but didn't press for details. I arranged a meeting for the following day, then forced myself to eat something from room service. Around noon, there was a knock at my door. I wasn't surprised to find Rachel standing there, eyes puffy from crying. How did you find me? I asked, not inviting her in. You always stay at Marriott's, she said. I tried 3 before this one. I let her in but remained standing. She looked terrible. Good, I thought bitterly. I moved my things into the guest room, she said. And Mark, he's staying with his brother. How considerate of you both, I replied. James, we need to talk about what happens next. About us, about the business. There is no us anymore, I said flatly. As for the business, my lawyer will be contacting Mark. Her face crumpled. So that's it. 8 years of marriage, and you won't even try to work through this. Something inside me snapped. Work through this? You've been sleeping with my business partner, my friend, for 8 months. You brought him into our home, into our bed. What exactly am I supposed to work through? People make mistakes, James. Terrible, horrible mistakes. But some marriages survive affairs. This wasn't some drunken one-night stand, Rachel. This was a calculated, ongoing betrayal by the 2 people I trusted most. Every time you looked me in the eye and said you loved me, you were lying. She started crying again. I do love you. That never changed. Well, that makes one of us, I said. After she left, I did something I'd been avoiding. I called my parents. My mom answered, and I broke down as soon as I heard her voice. Through tears, I told them everything. Dad offered to come get me, but I needed to be alone. The meeting with the lawyer was brutal but necessary. The business would be difficult to separate, but not impossible. I owned 55% to Mark's 45%, giving me controlling interest. The lawyer suggested buying Mark out rather than dissolving completely. 3 days after discovering the affair, I returned home. Rachel was out. I packed enough clothes and essentials for a month, then wrote a note saying I'd be staying at my parents' lake house to figure things out. I asked her not to contact me. At the office, I had my secretary reschedule all joint meetings with Mark and worked from my private office. When we did cross paths, it was strictly professional. The staff sensed something was wrong, but thankfully didn't ask questions. 2 weeks later, I received a buyout offer from Mark through his lawyer. He wanted to leave the company entirely, requesting fair market value for his share. It would stretch our finances thin, but I agreed immediately. I wanted him gone. That weekend, Rachel came to the lake house unannounced. She looked different, determined rather than apologetic. Mark's moving to Seattle, she said as she sat across from me on the deck. He's accepted a position with Davidson Construction. I nodded, unsurprised. Seattle was where his brother lived. I'm not going with him, she added. I looked at her then. I didn't ask. I know, but I wanted you to hear it from me. What happened between us it wasn't love, James. It was a mistake that spiraled. Does that matter? I asked. It does to me, she replied. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want you to know I'm staying here, in our town. I've rented an apartment downtown. The house is yours. I never really loved it anyway. We sat in silence for a while, watching the sunset over the lake. Finally, I said what I'd been thinking for weeks. I don't hate you, Rachel. I wish I could. It would be easier. But mostly I'm just disappointed. In both of you. In myself too, for not seeing it sooner. She left shortly after, and I felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness, but perhaps the first step toward moving on. The affair had broken something fundamental between us, something that couldn't be repaired. It's been 3 weeks now. The buyout is proceeding. Rachel and I are in contact only through our respective lawyers. Mark moved away last weekend without saying goodbye. I'm focusing on rebuilding my company, my routines, my sense of self. Some days are better than others. Today, writing this out has helped somehow. Maybe tomorrow will be easier.